We killed Superman. Not with kryptonite. We killed his concept. We turned the greatest symbol of hope into a monster, and yet we applaud while he burns everything to the ground. Today, I'm going to prove to you how the hero we wanted to be became the nightmare we deserve. In 1938, Superman was born as a cry for help. Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, two sons of Jewish immigrants living through the Great Depression in Cleveland, didn't create a god to be worshipped. They created a mirror of themselves and their frustration with the injustice that dominated the streets. Superman was the ultimate immigrant, the stranger who arrives, is welcomed, but refuses to be corrupted. He uses his extraordinary strength not to rule, but to protect the oppressed, the weak, and those the system ignored. He wasn't a god. He was a guy from Kansas, raised by farmers, who learned a fundamental lesson. Power without responsibility is just brutality. It was a direct response to the inequality of the time. The original Superman was the arm of the people. He stood up to the factory owner exploiting the worker, the corrupt politician, the abusive husband. He was the New Deal in the form of blue spandex. He was the hope that justice would be blind in favor of the little guy. But the market is a hungry animal, and it never tolerates altruism for very long. Over the decades, we made a point of ruining this. We can't stand perfection because it reminds us of our own flaws, our selfishness, our inability to be better. It's much easier to destroy an idol, tear it to shreds, and say that deep down everyone is dirty than to try to live up to the standard he set. And that's what we did. The concept began to rot from the inside out the moment society stopped believing in pure altruism as something real. In the 50s, Superman was adjusted. He became that unwavering Boy Scout, the guy who couldn't even whistle out of tune without setting a bad example for American youth. He was stripped of his aggressive edge against the system and turned into a propaganda totem, a state symbol. And that's where the decay took root. Because it's one thing to have a hero who fights for the people, it's another thing entirely to have a symbol of absolute authority. We started to ask ourselves, what would stop this guy from just taking control? It was the beginning of the end of trust. The transition to what we see today wasn't an accident. It was a cultural response. The crisis of confidence after Watergate and the cynicism of the Cold War paved the way. We began to see power as inherently corrupt. If Superman has the power of a god, and we know that men in power are always corrupted, then Superman is logically a threat. This paranoia was the catalyst. Authors like Alan Moore and Frank Miller started treating kindness not as a virtue, but as an anomaly or a strategic weakness. The comic book industry realized that the anti-hero sells much better. We transformed the greatest symbol of hope in pop culture into a case study on how power inevitably destroys the soul. We stopped seeing Superman as a beacon and started seeing him as a ticking time bomb. And from that point on, the original concept was buried under tons of corporate cynicism. We no longer wanted the guy who lifts the building to save people. We wanted to see the guy who tears the building down because he's bored or because nobody cheered for him enough. We became addicted to the spectacle of deconstruction. We think we understand the game, that we unmasked the system, when in reality we only became what we feared. The fall wasn't theirs, it was ours. The dream was traded for paranoia. We killed the hero, and in exchange, we got the mirror we deserve. And that's just the beginning. Metro Man, Omni-Man, and Homelander aren't just characters, they are the stages of our own moral collapse. Metro Man, in Megamind, is the first stop, the hero who hits the peak of burnout. He realized that public adoration is a leash. Metro Man didn't fall because he was evil. He quit because he was too human to sustain a godhood. He preferred to be a musician, an ordinary person, rather than remaining a static totem. It was the first time we saw a super admit that being Superman is, above all, lonely and absurd. The descent continues, and here it gets truly ugly. Omni-Man is the ultimate betrayal. In Invincible, Nolan Grayson didn't come to save the world, he came to colonize. He is the neighbor who smiles and shakes your hand, but who will crush you because you are, technically, an ant to him. Kindness is just a cheap infiltration strategy. He isn't a hero, he is a patient predator. But hitting rock bottom is Homelander. Absolute nihilism. In The Boys, there is no mask left. He has no childhood, no parents. He was created in a lab, a commodity manufactured by Vought. He doesn't want to save the world, he wants to be the owner. The involution is clear. We've been stripping away layers of humanity and adding cynicism. And look at the aesthetics. The original Superman used vibrant, primary colors, optimism. As we descend the staircase, the colors die. The gray, the metallic, the blown-out blue. The discoloration of the uniform is the reflection of the discoloration of our morality. The fall wasn't theirs, it was ours. We are living in the era of supervillains in hero costumes, and the most frightening part is that we identify more with them. Superman was about what can I do for you? Homelander is about what can you do for me? This is the real fall. We transformed the Protector into a nightmare because we fear the responsibility of being good. What's left? Only structured cynicism. Next time you see a cape fluttering, don't expect a savior. Look for the cracks. You've become the cynic who prefers to see the world burn rather than believe in an act of free kindness. So, can you still see Superman, or do you only see Homelander waiting for the green light to destroy everything? Comment down below. Now. The time for believing in fairy tales is over, and the reality is that we chose this ending. Are you satisfied?